Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Hi, folks. We're going to get started in just a minute. We're just, because of the weather, given another minute or so to see if people arrive before we start our presentation, but we'll get started in just a couple.
Hey, good, Chris. How you doing? Everything all right? No, we're good. You're all set.
Well, I worked in over at the college in Marysville, and there are well, yeah, I grew up the gal I went over that's what happened to the devil myself the library. Well, I know, that my daughter, in her late 60s,
Thanks for your patience, everyone here in the building and everyone who's joining us online with Zoom. Really appreciate you hanging out with us here for a couple minutes while we let some people take their time to get here. Weather's not so great, and so I appreciate that some people transferred over to Zoom and chose to attend that way rather than in person. Thank you for staying safe, and you're still here and getting all the same information, so appreciate it.
He didn't hear you.
No, of course not. All right. So do I need to do clap once if you can hear me? All right. I was never a children's librarian, but I can employ the devices if I need to. So first of all, I do want to welcome you all here today. Thank you so much for coming, both in person and online. For those of you who braved the weather, I hope that you drove slowly and safely, and thankfully you're here now. So appreciate that. My name is Melissa McKenna, and I am the department head for adult services, which is pretty much most of the second floor of the library. And then also under my purview is the local history collection and the talking book library. So really under my umbrella of staff are all of the services that we offer for adults pretty much, except for your movies and your music, because that still belongs to the sight and sound department. Okay. And so my partner here today is Robin Stanley, and Robin is the staff person who is working currently in the local history collection. So thankfully we were able to add more hours this year to that position, and so we do have Robin in there almost full time now. She also gets to help us out sometimes in some of the other departments, which is really just a great way to see what's going on in the community and what the community is asking for, which can be a nice complement to what she's doing in the local history collection. So let's see here. I do want to thank everyone for their patience. I know it's been a long time and we've had a lot of people asking about the local history collection. Before 2020 and our events of the past 3 years, it was still in a state of transition even at that time. So Amy Barrett, who used to be the talking book librarian, also had an interest in and was working with the local history collection. But in 2019, she moved on to her position now where she is full-time at the Kingsley Library. And they do have a small local history component and collection over at their location, focusing on Kingsley and Mayfield mostly. But she's no longer able to be doing things over here with the collection that's in this building. She has enough to do, keeping her hands full over there. Okay, so we closed then for the pandemic. The library was in a state of open and closed for the next 1.5 years or so, depending on how things were going in the situation out there in the world, right? So we have since reopened. The library has been open pretty much full time for a couple of years now, which we are so happy about. But it took a little bit longer to get the local history collection up to the point where we are today. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit, and that'll be part of our history of the collection sort of talk that we're going to be doing. But I do want to recognize that we know that everyone was eager to be hearing about what's going on with the collection, hearing about what we're doing, and we appreciate all of your inquiries, and we heard you. And so we're just letting you know that, okay? All right, so. There we go. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to do a brief history of the local history collection. We're then going to talk about an overview of the collection, what's in it, what's not in it, that kind of thing. Because we do get questions a lot about some of the things that we absolutely do not have. So I just want to make that kind of information clear as well. We're going to talk a little bit about how to donate and how our donations come in, talking about how you can access the collection. We're going to talk about our volunteer project opportunities that we have, and we do have a few of them for you to choose from, and then there'll be an opportunity to sign up at the end. And then we'll talk about next steps and what's going to be happening. All right, so let's go over a little bit of the collection history. And because I am not a Traverse City native, I do have notes that I'm referring to just to make sure that I got this accurately, because I understand that this was about 2016 that sort of a transition happened from where the local history collection used to be to where it is currently here at Tattle. And so most of my information is coming from my colleagues here. So the bulk of the local history collection is what was inherited from the Traverse Area Historical Society and the Historical Museum that was over on 6th Street. So when that facility was closing, Tattle, the library, offered to take the 2D objects that were housed over there. So I do want to make that clear. Some people ask us a lot, not some people, a lot of people ask us, where's the stuff from the Con Foster Museum? Where's the little city, the tiny city, miniature city that they had? You know, where's this, where's that? If it is a 3-dimensional object, that is not something that came to the library. So the 3-dimensional objects are still housed by the city over in the basement of the Carnegie Building. And then I understand that there are some things that are also out with some of the members of the Historical Society in storage with the community as well. So that's where those things are. We got photographs, documents, papers, 2D objects, because that's pretty much what our bread and butter here is at the library. We did acquire the items in 2016. There was a librarian who already had a full-time job, Amy, who then did as much as she could to try to organize what had come over at that time. And over the next few years, did as much as she could to acquisition and fully accession the things that were there and create finding aids for them. But because there wasn't specific staff time dedicated to that, it was fill in addition to the other things that she was already working on. So then the pandemic happened and the library closed, along with the rest of the world. But we were still working behind the scenes because there were still people in the building a lot of the time that the library was closed during that second half of the pandemic wave in the winter. And so we were still here in the building doing things, maintaining the collection. And one of the things that happened was the library applied for one of the 2% grants from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. And they provided us the majority of the funding to put in a set of compact shelving. And so that's kind of what's going on over here with the pictures. So I'm going to step away for just a second. And so up above, you can see in the top 2 pictures, what you've got are a mash of shelving. So, you know, shelving is always a thing in libraries, and you want as much shelving as you can possibly get, and you're going to find it wherever you can, and you're going to make the best use of it that you can, because shelving is at a premium in most libraries. So we did what we could, and we had things organized. The shelves were labeled, they were in an order. We could find things, but it wasn't the best way to store these archival items, right? This was not doing them the respect and justice that we could. And we knew that. And so then the library applied for the grant, received the grant, and then we were able to go ahead and put in the compact shelving. And so those are two of the pictures that you're seeing there at the bottom. And so compact shelving, just for those of you who may not seen it before, a lot of times you see it in the large universities and in their archives and things. And so we have a much smaller scale version of that. We only have 4 bays, but basically there is a stationary shelf at one end, and then we have 3 other banks of shelves, and those move along a track back and forth so that we're able to open up a space pretty much only where a person needs to walk. And so that's kind of an important thing to point out, is that the local history collection is not in a space that's accessible to the public. And that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, they are archival materials, and the more they're handled, the worse worse condition they're going to be in. And part of our responsibility for the collection is preservation, in addition to access. So we're going to be working on that preservation part first, and the access part follows. And so the preservation of the items, being able to put them onto these shelves, have more growth room for the collection, which is very important because people are donating to us pretty much on a weekly basis. To be able to have the things stored in a space that is consistent, uniform, using those materials that we know are going to make sure that that collection is kept safe. All right. And that space is small. When I say that we can open it up and allow a person to go down the aisle, that's pretty much all the room that's in that space. There is one workspace for Robin. She can turn around, and then there's the bank of shelving, and the shelving opens up to allow one person to go up and down the aisle. And that's how much room we have. So there's not really even room much when I go down an aisle. Turning around is a little tight. So it's really a close workspace, which is the other reason that we're not having that space be accessible to the public, because it literally is kind of a hazard to a certain extent to allow too many people in there. Okay. And so we have also, as I mentioned, Robin, who's now full-time for the most part in the local history collection. And Robin has experience working in her past in social history collections. So that's really what her focus is and what experience Robin brings to the table, along with some textile experience, which doesn't usually come in handy because we don't have many 3D objects here, but you know, occasionally things come in. And so then now we're ready really for that next chapter. So we've got the collection set up. Robin's got it organized. She knows she can lay hands on the things that we need when we need them, which is the important part here. And then we're ready to have some help. We need some people to help us organize some of the things that we've got going online, some of our other files and things that we have. We're going to do displays, and we have done actually already this year a couple of displays in the library on women's history. Right now, if you go up to the 2nd floor, you'll see in that display case, we've got some information about the local League of Women Voters and AAU chapters, and talking about suffrage and right to vote and, you know, all of those kinds of things. So we've got quite a good bit of interesting photographs and things going on up there right now. And so that's something that we'll be changing out on a regular basis and bringing in more materials from downstairs into the display case. And I'm just showcasing some of the things that we have pertinent to topics that are going on today. We're going to be doing some posts on social media, and then we're going to be doing programs. And so some things like this, like what you're seeing today. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to partner with some of our other local organizations that deal with, you know, historical things, and see what we can do to make sure that we're really sharing the collection as much as we can at this point. Okay. All right. So let's see. We did come up with, in addition to all of the work we were doing behind the scenes, we did some paperwork. And one of the things we did for our paperwork is we created a mission statement for the local history collection. And so I just want to share that with you. And so we, the mission statement for the Traverse Area District Library Local History Collection is to preserve the history of Grand Traverse County and make those stories available in a way that is respectful to the past, engaged with the present, and planning for the future. So I'm going to turn this over to Robin now for a little bit. She's going to talk about the collection.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. It's nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces that have not met me yet. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have in the collection. And I want to, it's really important to know that we are focused on Grand Traverse County. Now, I know that a lot of people are concerned about that because we have connections to the outlying communities around us and counties around us. Items that come into the collection that are from counties that are or municipalities outside of Grand Traverse County are surveyed for their connection to people and organizations in our community. So we do survey the items to see when they come in if there's some connection or some thread. Generally, if there is, then we keep the items, but in the case that they are just lovely items from Antrim County or from Benzie County, those things are offered to organizations and institutions in those counties. It's really important to know this because, as Melissa was saying, space is a real premium. And when she says that space is tight, that space is very tight. And we want the things that are going to benefit research and, of the people in Grand Traverse County. Right now we have we haven't counted the physical items, but the whole space is about 1,700 linear feet. That's the current space that we have to fill. It's not totally filled. About a quarter of it is completely compact and completely, edge to edge. And we're working I'm working on organizing so that there's actually even more efficient space in the units. But it is very tight, and it is also the space is at such a premium that everything that comes in is getting reviewed and surveyed, because we don't want to have things that are not connected. And we want the other institutions and entities to really, have those in their collections. So it's kind of, we just went and said we just had to put those parameters in, and it's been a little loose before, but now we've tightened that up. Mostly photos and postcards. Hundreds of thousands of photos and postcards. Boxes of photos and postcards. And not only are they just in their, just themselves, but they're also within other collections. So that's a large amount of what we have. We also have records and ledgers from organizations, businesses in the area, farms that were in the area, all kinds of different entities, and some city ledgers, some city entities. We have some ledgers from them, a few railroad ledger items. Again, they're items that are connected directly to Grand Traverse County in some way, shape, or form. We also have, which is one of our gems, is the Women's Oral History Project collection, which you can go online. It's on our website. You can explore what's there because there is a finding aid for it. And that was an oral history project that was done of women in the area that were interviewed and then for their contributions to Grand Traverse County. It's an invaluable resource for someone who's researching history in the area. Then we have the family collections, which are all or almost all founding families of Grand Traverse County, Traverse City, Grand Traverse County, and they are for the most part contained within collections. So we have, for instance, one family name, and we have 2 or 3 boxes of that one family name. Unfortunately, not all of them have finding aids at this point. We haven't gotten to that yet, but they are safe and secure. So anyone who's wondering about the family, if they had worked with family documents before or family collections in the past, they are safe and secure. Our whole goal has been to make the items that we were entrusted with for stewardship back in 2016 safe and secure. That has been the goal from the very beginning, and it is continues with that today. So those items are, some of those items actually were, had to be rehoused. And I did that personally, using parameters and the best, we call them best practices. And so a great deal of care and time was put into those items so that you are aware of that, because they were collections of items. They're collections of items. We also have a large collection of the library history. There's been a lot of wonderful work done in the last, really last year on the book that came out on the library. And a lot of that were items that people researched with the collections that we had. It's a very large collection. Obviously, the library history goes back to, the late 1800s. So it's not just the Carnegie Building. It goes back before that with organizations. So having said all of that, those are the things that we have mostly. There are two major areas that we do not have. One is records from the state hospital. State hospital records were closed when the state hospital closed, and anything that has to do with patient records was transferred to the state. We have nothing to do with that. We do have trustee reports, and those have a finding aid on our website. And we can talk a little bit more about finding aids. Finding aids are how you know what's basically in a box. So those things have been done. Those things are done. Everything is transparent. You can see what's there. We also do not have anything to do with the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. That group back in the 90s, because of federal procedures, policies, and laws, all of their items were repatriated to them. That's 3D and 2D. I think we can talk about maybe Melissa can talk about the other item that is online, but we have no physical items that have to do with that. It's something that's just not in our what we call our scope. We call it the scope of the collection. And and I will go back, I will say about the scope of the collection, one of the things we've been working on behind the scenes is, what is the scope of the collection? What are the policies and procedures that we needed to ensure the stewardship of this collection for not just the immediate, but for the future? So those two major areas we do not have. And then of course, as I mentioned, we do not have items from outside of the area, unless there's a thin thread. So having said that, I think, Melissa, do you want to talk about the other item with the, yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Robin. And so the item that she's mentioning, and this kind of ties in with when we talk a little bit later about how to access the stuff online. So right when the pandemic closures happened, NMC was remodeling the building where their library was in, and they made a new building and they moved their library over. And at that time, NMC Library divested themselves of all of their microfilm machines, microfilm itself. Tattle absorbed the things that were important for the local history of the area. So we took the small local papers microfilm that they had. We took the Record Eagle, and we are now the stewards of the microfilm of the complete history and collection of the Traverse City Record Eagle. We have a better collection actually on microfilm than what is available online, just because there's holes. And so that's something that is also a goal of ours to work on in the future years, is to try to get what's online to be matching exactly what we have on microfilm so that it's a complete collection everywhere. But one of the other things that we acquired from NMC at that time was a roll, 3 rolls, a set of microfilm of birth, death, marriage, baptism records for the church, Catholic Church in Shawbytown. And so what we did with those was we sent the reels that we acquired, we sent to our microfilmer and had them make new copies of good copies, ones that we could have the public use and access. And then the original films that came from NMC, which were not the original ledgers themselves. We don't know what happened to those after they were microfilmed, but the microfilm that we did acquire, which was as close to the original items as possible, we then gave back to the tribe, which they were very grateful for, because part of what their responsibilities are is to establish lineage and family connections in order for approving membership. And so to have those records on hand that they're able to then use, it just makes it a lot easier for them, because they were having to go through and try to get records from the diocese and other places. And it was just a lot more difficult. We did actually have that microfilm and the contents of the microfilm digitized when they were microfilmed, so that process can happen at the same time, which is very efficient. And so those are also available on our website. And so the idea is to make that information accessible to the people who need to use it, who are not part of the tribe, so that the people who are not members, the people who are members, they're going to work with the tribe. They're going to do what they need to do with their information that way. But the people who are not members, who still might need to access that information because of their family histories and whatnot, are able to do so without having to make contact or bother the tribe themselves. Okay, so that's some of what Robin was talking about for that.
Just wanted to mention that.
Yep. All right, and so we talked a bit about donations, and the donations come in. How do you donate? Well, that pretty much is me. And so if you come in and you ask about making a donation to the local history collection, the staff here are going to put you in contact with me. They'll give you my business card, whatever information they need. And I will then contact you, and we will talk about what it is that you have. We'll establish whether or not it's in the scope of the collection. And if it's, we can just through the course of our conversation determine that that's true, then I'm going to invite you to fill out our transfer of deed gift form, because in order to make the donation usable for the local history collection and the library, we do need to have signed written permission to be able to take possession of the item and then do things with it, like digitize it, all that kind of thing. Without that signed permission, really we're at a loss to be able to do anything with it. We don't own it unless you sign it over to us. And so that becomes a very important part of that acquisition process for the library. We have too many people that are just coming in and they're dropping things off. We don't know where they came from. We don't know what the provenance is. We don't know who to contact to ask them. And then we don't know what we can do with them. Right? So we don't know, are we allowed to digitize them? Are we allowed to put them up on the website for everyone to see? Because again, we do need to be respectful of everyone's histories. Okay. So that's how that works. But we do thank everyone who's giving us donations, because we are getting some of the most interesting things coming in, and Robin will tell you, it's just a joy sometimes to open up the donation and the box of the thing that's happened sometimes. And I will say again, I heard you all talking earlier about fudgies. I don't know if I'm a fudgy if I come from out of state or not, but I'm definitely a transplant. I did not come here for vacation ever before, so I don't know that I can be a fudgy. I just transplanted myself here for work. But somebody called up and said, "Hey, I've got boat flags from the Cherry Festival. Do you want them?" And I was like, what? but even only having been here for 3.5 years, I heard Cherry Festival and boat and went, yes, I think we do want those. Thank you. This was someone who lived out of state now. So packed them all up nicely in a box, mailed them to us, got the box, opened it up. And then I went, oh, that's what he meant by Cherry Festival boat flags. Because I guess they were one of the items you could purchase as a souvenir every year was you could get one of those the flags that you can then hang, you know, and string with your decorative flags on your masts of your sailboat or whatever kind of boat you might have. And it's 20, 30 years of every single year of the flags. And we don't do textiles. So we don't know that we're necessarily going to be keeping those for ourselves here. But we wanted to make sure that they were secure and safe. You know, this was something that, I mean, it is important that we have them, right? And get to see them and have these available for the community in the future to be able to see the history of this particular souvenir of the Cherry Festival. So we knew we wanted them back in the county. Now, whether they live at the library permanently, probably not, but until we do find that home for them, they're here and they're safe, right? Okay. All right. So I'm going to have Robin come in.
Okay, I'm going to talk about, hello again, I'm going to talk about what happens when a donation comes into the library. And as Melissa said, she has already had the conversation with the donor about whether it's in the scope, whether we should take, you know, what basically it is. Because sometimes the first conversation is, hi, I have photographs. So there is often some back and forth. And as an example, we had some back and forth with a patron or with a person who was down south and went back and forth for a few months on some emails. And do I click this side? This side. There we go. This is an example of after back and forth with emails and conversations on the phone. This wonderful person down south sent us this box. It was a FedEx box. It was literally small. It was, you know, a small box about this big, maybe the size of an archive box. And I opened it up and this is what it looked like right out, you know. So it had to go into quarantine for a bit because we weren't sure what was actually in there. So it went in quarantine for a bit. Everything gets quarantined, just so you know, so we don't contaminate the rest of the collection. And as you can see, it was jumbled and unfortunately a bit chaotic. Having said that, as a person that's worked with collections, you never assume that. You might assume that someone had layered things in there over years. So we have to be very, very careful when we take things out of a box, which is what you can see in the next picture here. I laid everything out in sections from the archaeology of the box that came in. This is why it takes so long to do this. We don't just dump everything out on the counter. No one would expect that. But when you're dealing with things, we have no idea without the person telling us who packed the box or how they packed the box. You know, you literally it's an archaeological project. So what I did was myself personally, I am the only person that's handling the materials in the workroom. I went through, I opened it up. As you can see, I was laying things out as they were, you know, as they were layered. By the way, that 1900 up there is a deer license from 1900 from Grand Traverse County, which was a nice little gem. And then the third picture is a beautifully preserved card photograph that is beautiful, absolutely in perfect condition. It was just sitting in with the rest of the things. Thank goodness it wasn't next to some other items that were a little bit in worse condition. So that was really those two items were real gems. And then at the last picture, you can see where I went with it. I realized it would fit into one archival storage box. And then I carefully put things into envelopes. You can see at the top, those are all archival envelopes. And everything is layered based on my best knowledge of what was in the box, because there was no guidebook from the person that gave it to us on these things all go together. There were no rubber bands. There was no nothing. It was literally like this. So I did the best that I could to layer things out. You can see sort of on the bottom there, there's a tie at the bottom that's tying some correspondence together. It's a beautiful. It's a beautiful collection. It's a few families actually with extended families. It's very, very exciting. Having said that, it's now safe and secure. Nothing else has been done with it. And that's why I just want to go with the next thing that happens. So this is typical of the process. By the way, this took me about 2 weeks. And this was 2 weeks that I was on full time in that room, not doing anything else in the library. Because I do help with the reference desk and I have other duties. So that's 2 weeks of straight work doing that. And that's the kind of care and attention that we're taking to every donation. Having said that, so it's secure, it's in a box, have an idea of what's in there, we have a little bit of an idea of what's in there, and then it sits to wait to be accessioned. Accessioning is when it gets an official an official document that tells what it is, so that the public can see what that is. And that hasn't happened yet with this particular box. We have so many things coming in that my job, what I've been tasked with, is primarily to make sure that things are safe and secure. Because a lot of things are coming in this one condition here. Not everything, but a fair amount are coming in like this. And that's not to say the public doesn't care, but we're the ones that are supposed to handle it. So that's how it's going. So when it's at some point, this box will be accessioned. Right now it has a location, it has a description, it has paperwork that is attached to it, the original paperwork's in it with it. And once there's a time to do that, and there isn't, loads of other things that have to be handled, then we will get to that process where it will get an official number, an official document, and then it gets the finding aid, which is what I talked about originally. The finding aid is the final piece that tells the public what exactly is in this box. So the finding aid will say correspondence from one date to another, or from one person to another. That's what the finding aid will do. It'll be a way for the public to be able to see what's happening. Right now, we have some terrific finding aids on our website. One of the best is from the Friendly Garden Club, if you want to see how that looks and what that's about. Or you can also go to the reference desk and they can show you what a finding aid looks like. But that's the goal. And past that, we have one more goal, which would be to take every object in this and scan it so that it can be a digital reference for the public.
Robin, how
So-
many things do you think were in that box? How many items do you think you handled in that box?
Well over 500-600.
And so scanning each one of those, you can see where scanning becomes a time-consuming thing.
Plus you're dealing with not only just scanning the item, but it's also the condition of the specific thing you're scanning. Some things are very brittle. There were some brittle items in here. Those are mostly the things there are some tin types in this box. There are nothing, I think they're just tin types, but it's, the scanning is a whole nother layer of care and time. So that has not happened yet. But again, I've been tasked with doing this portion of it here. And like I said, I'm excited that we have a space to do this. A clean, open space that's workable, and that I have the time to be able to do it properly without any pressure. So that's, anyway, so having said that, well, I'm going to hand it back to Melissa, who's going to talk about the next thing. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to how do I see the collection? This is the question that we get most often. Sometimes it's indirectly asked, but I did have somebody come up to the reference desk yesterday and he said, okay, so how do I get to see what's in your local history collection? And the answer to that is right now, that's online for the most part. That's where you're going to be able to find photographs, postcards that have been scanned. For the most part, you can do keyword searching and come up with a decent amount of things to match what it is that you're looking for. And so this is local history.tattle.org is our website there. And you can see that we do some featured little photographs, featured photo collections. If we've had something added recently, that floats to the top. So this is the landing page for that. But we also have, within that, we've got, most of the time, the question that we get is, I found a picture on your website and I'd like to use it. How do I, cite you? And so the information for that is on here. All of the finding aids that we have done already for the things that have been fully accessioned are linked on here. This is where you're also going to find the Shabbytown records. So all of these things are going to be coming through the website. And this is really the future. This is where we want to have everything end up. We want people to be able to be anywhere. So there's a family who was one of the original pioneer families, and they were here and they had a bunch of kids, and those kids moved off other places, and they had kids and they moved off other places. And so now, they're across the country and they want to be able to research their family history. We want them to be able to do that and do that from where they are in a way that's easy for them, right? So this is our ultimate goal, is to be able to do that. But as Robin said, all of our goals have steps to them that involve time and people and resources and money, right? So we're doing what we can as fast as we can in the steps that we can, in what we're available and able to do at this time. In-person access, we already talked about that. There's really not a space in there to host someone who wants to do research. So when someone would like to do research that would be utilizing things that are in the local history collection, they're going to go through the reference desk. They're going to go through the reference department. And honestly, that's where everybody starts who's an adult who has a question, about the library anyway. So they start in the reference department. We do have Catherine, in case you haven't met Catherine, she's at the back of the room there. She's one of our librarians who's been around since the time of the building on 6th Street. And so she does have a lot of local history knowledge that she carries around with her in her head, but she's also very adept at helping people find the things that they need through the access to what it is that we have. And so you approach the desk and you get Catherine or Kim or one of our other librarians, and they get some information from you. Typically what will happen at that point is, if it is determined that we do need to have things from the local history collection, then the query gets referred to me, and I work with Robin, and we identify through what we can find online. I'll start there, and then I'll let Robin know what we're looking for. And Robin starts with what she knows of where things are downstairs in the physical collection for the things that aren't online yet. And then we come together and say, here are all the things that we have that are on this particular topic. And then we invite the person to come in and do their research, and they do that up on the second floor next to the reference desk there. So the items are staying in the sight of the staff, and then people are able to use them, and then we collect them back up again and take them back down. And that's really going to be the most comfortable way for everyone, because literally there is nowhere to sit down in the local history collection. And if you're going to be going through, a box or a folder of things where you're going to be turning them over and over again, you've stood at desks, you've stood at tables hunched over, right? You don't end up very happy about that at the end of the day. So we're going to have people have a comfortable place to sit. They'll be able to take their time and look through things. There'll be a lot of space for people to spread out. You got a whole table so you can put things out flat so that we're keeping things safe and secure. Okay. All right. So now we're at the point for where many of you are probably really here for is, what is it that we're going to do? What can you help us with? What things do we have coming up that we'd really like to improve access to, so that we can have everybody be able to access these items? So there are going to be 3 different projects. You get to choose what you're most intrigued by, most interested in working on, what speaks to you. There are going to be 2 that can be done entirely online. And so for the people who weren't able to join us today, for the people who are joining us online, maybe online is how they prefer to do things, we're going to have this training Today, this is being recorded and it will be up on our YouTube channel. The library has a YouTube channel. And so we'll be able to use this to refer people who inquire about volunteering, refer them to this training in this video, and then we'll be able to refer them to the videos of the trainings for when we get into the actual nuts and bolts of how we do each of these things. So we could have some people who are someplace else, have a vested interest in Grand Traverse County. Maybe they're snowbirds who go down for the winter. Maybe they're children of people who live here or used to live here, but they live someplace else now. But they're really interested in what's going on here in the history of the area. They'll be able to help us out too. So we've got 2 online only projects, and this is going to be helping us tag photos because, as I mentioned, we do have the photos online. They've been scanned, and some of them have really great records and all of some really great keywords and all of the information in there. And some of them really could be fleshed out a little. And I'll show you some examples of that. The other one online is going to be document transcription. So we've got documents that we've scanned and they're online, but computers can't find things to do keyword searching in them because they're in cursive or they're not, optical character recognition enabled. So basically you put in a keyword search, a computer has to be able to scan through the thing and find the letters that match what you typed in. And if that particular item has been added in a way that the computer can't read it, then no one's going to be able to find that thing with a keyword search. So we do need people to go in and take a look at those documents, type out what they see so that people are then able to use those transcriptions to do the keyword searching. And then we do have one option that is here at the library. And so this is going to be helping us do the local history file inventory. So this is a project that was started by our interns that we had last summer. So up in the reference department, we have in one of our cabinets, they used to be called pamphlet files back when the libraries were, old. But libraries are fresh and new now and nobody uses things like pamphlets. So we're calling them the local history files, and what they don't really just have pamphlets in them. So what's in there is a lot of just accumulation of information and things about buildings and people and places here in the county. So, all of the parks pretty much have a folder in those files, and, those could be just things about that particular park. It could be a map of the park from the 1970s and a map of the park from the 1980s, and then maybe another one from, way a long time ago. And then you get to kind of see and compare those things. So these are sort of that ephemeral stuff that you pick up when you go around and are living your life or go on vacation, and you just come up with these things and you're like, what would I do with them? So things like that deer hunting license, those, things like that, where you've got something, you're like, this is pretty cool. It's old, but I don't know what to do with it. But it's about a person or a place or a business in Grand Traverse County, then chances are we've got a file on it, and that's where we would put it. So we've got, file folders on the City Opera House, and we have the things in there from when they did the renovation, and they did a big thick binder of sort of like the stuff and the history of, and we've got a copy of that because somebody thought to save it here at the library. And chances are there's not too many of those floating around anymore because, once the renovation's done, people are like, yay, that was great. Looks so good. They have the party. And then, nobody does anything with the paperwork after that. Right. So, but that's what we do here in the local history collection. We do want that paperwork, and we do want that old stuff because chances are somebody's going to come along, and they have, and say, I want to research the Opera House. And then we're able to pull out the file, and here's all of these things about the renovation that happened. So, right. So let's take a closer look at the projects. So first one we're going to talk about is tagging the photos. This is something that we actually had some of our staff here working on. Back during the pandemic when we were closed, people were still working from home. And so we did have some staff who had, not a whole lot that they could work on at home. And tagging photos was one of the things that they were able to do and help us with. So we did have a training for that for our staff at that time. And we'll be using a very similar training when we do the individual trainings for this particular task. once you're trained on how to tag the photos, it can be done from anywhere because all you need is an internet connection and your login information, right? The photos have been scanned and are online. They're not as findable as they could be. We want them to be findable. Access is our second biggest priority. Preservation first priority, access is the second. This is really the most heavily used part of our collection. It is the backbone of the collection. This is what people from the outside of the county call us the most often about. They want a photo of this. They found a photo of this. They logging photos of the Cherry Festival. I'm sure you guys have seen in a lot of the local publications, newspapers and things, there'll be a photo of something, that's historical here for the county. And at the bottom, it'll say photo courtesy of Traverse Area District Library. So that's where these are coming from. They're coming from this online photograph collection. And again, every day, all the time, this is being used. It could be better. We want it to be the best that it can be. It's good now. It could be great. And that's really what we need help with. We do need a good level of computer skills. There's going to be data entry. So you're going to be logging in. You're going to be pulling up, a record for an item. You're going to be going through things. You're going to be having to add and type. There also could be some Googling involved because sometimes, you need to do that research and you need to go, oh, did that happen this year or was that the next year? Is that this person with this first name or the other person that was related to them with this other first name? So there's going to be some research that sometimes has to happen with these. And we're not looking for in-depth, really in-depth research. We're just looking for surface level Google, couple of links just to verify that what's in there is correct. All right, so let's see why. Okay, so it's going to be kind of hard. These are kind of small, and I apologize for that. Again, the recording will be on the library's YouTube channel later, and what that will do is allow you the opportunity where you could zoom in on this if you wanted to. So we've got two pictures of school children here. One has been tagged and done really well, and one has not had that done for it yet. So the one that's over here, it tells us what school and when. So the title of this, Williamsburg School Children circa 1904. Over here, no title. First of all, didn't things have a title? Kind of basic, right? All right, so then we've got subjects, school children and schools. And then over here, Williamsburg, Michigan, Williamsburg School, Williamsburg School Children Schools. Okay, so which is going to get you the better results, right? We want to know which school this is from. We want to know which city this is from. Okay? Description, group of first grade school children at Oak Park School. Oh, there we go. There it is, down in the description. Now we finally know that it's Oak Park. And then we have Lehman Lake, the seated front left. How do we know that's Lehman Lake? Where did that information come from? That might be helpful. So, this description, photograph of Williamsburg school children, circa 1904. Original image contains handwritten notation, also circa 1904. Do you see where that gave some more information? Because this Lehman Lake seated front left, we need to know that that was coming from a notation that's on the thing, rather than. Source, school collection. Where we got it from, we've got a date, an approximate date, and an approximate date there. So, we've got good things going on here, but we've got some better things going on over here, right? And that's really kind of what we'd like to be working towards. All right, second online project, very similar, only this time you're going to be looking at documents with written words on them and typing in the words that you see as you see them, which can be difficult, I know, because I was practicing trying to do this, and the urge to correct all the typos is really strong, but that is not historically accurate, so you don't do that. All right, so we are typing out the words exactly as we see them. Again, all online, so it can be done from anywhere, and good computer skills needed, again, mostly typing. Now for the why. Okay, so again, got some examples here. So this is the report of the Board of Trustees for the State Psychiatric Hospital 6th Biennial Report for the period ending June 30th, 1918. Okay? And so we do have that scan and all of the pages are here. But then what we also have is what's on those pages typed out. And so that's an example of what you'd be doing. We probably would prefer and have you working on things that are handwritten first rather than the things that are typed. Just because things that are in cursive and people who can read cursive is a skill that is dying. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, shouldn't have used that word, but it is a skill that is just a lot of the young people don't have that cursive reading skill anymore. And it's certainly a thing. And to understand that this fancy F, well, that's an S. Who would think that, right? You know, and especially not younger people these days. All right, so third project is the in-person project, and this is our local history file inventory. So we got a couple of pictures here of those file folders and the types of things that you might find in them. There are two sets of files. We have two separate sets of drawers. One is for biographies, so that's your people. And then we've got the other one, which is places, and that's your businesses, your city, township, you know, municipality segments, your parks and recreation places. So pretty much anything that's not a person can usually go into that place category. Computer skills for this as well. There's probably going to be some Googling involved to do a little bit of research. For example, a lot of these biography files have the newspaper clipping. And so sometimes you can do something, and sometimes you can't because they cut all of that off when they put that out. And so we want to know, is that from the Record Eagle? Is that from the morning record? Is that from the evening record? You know, and try to get a date on that if at all possible. And again, this is just, we need to have provenance for these. In order for people to be able to use them for research, they need to be able to cite them. In order to be able to cite them, they need to know where they came from, right? So this is all part of that process. You're adding to a spreadsheet inventory. So it's what file am I in? What thing am I looking at? Description of it, where it came from. So you're just adding to a big long list, but having it in a list makes it searchable. And it also gives us an inventory so we know what's all is in there, because that's a problem right now is we don't know what is all in all of these things. We know what files we have. We know what subjects we have. We don't know what's in each of those items. So it would be nice to be able to see that and do that and know that online before people have to come in and then go searching through, right? Because they don't want to make the trip here and then find out that that particular folder doesn't have anything in it for them, right? That's a waste. Okay. All right, so what's next? You can sign up for a project of your choice. And so for those of you who are here in person today, I do have some sign up sheets up here. There are 3 different ones for the 3 different projects, because at this point, we're going to be doing some training individually. Not everybody needs to know how to do all of those things. You need to know how to do the thing that you want to help us with and that you'd like to be working on. Project training is going to be happening. I said here late March. I think that was optimistic. I think I'm aiming more for mid-April at this point, just so that nobody's dying, right? Nobody's trying to kill anybody else here at work. The trainings aren't going to be recorded. I understand everybody's an adult, everybody's got schedules, everybody has things that they need to do, and that changes from week to week, so it's not always consistent either. We are going to be recording the things that we do so that they are able to be accessed and learned from later. So if you can't attend the training live, they're going to be on the YouTube channel. You should be able to watch them and get that information that you need as well. Okay. I think that was it for that part. Let me just double check. Yes. Yeah. I think, let's see. All right, I think that was that. So I will take questions. Robin and I will take questions at this point, but I do want to thank everyone for their interest. I want to thank you for caring enough about Traverse City and the history and the collection to come and join us today and to find out the information. And whether you came online or in person, we appreciate you. And we would like to introduce you in the future as citizen historians. And so we are sunlighting the word volunteer for the local history collection. And we're inviting you all to be citizen historians with us because it's just as important as science, right? All right, so questions you have? Yes. Where's?
Oh,
Okay, so excellent. Thank you. I'm going to repeat the question just for those online in case. So the question is, where in the building is this located? So we are in the back half of what is the Talking Book Library. So the majority of that room is the Talking Book Library. That is Anita's workspace where she handles and does all of her wonderful work with the people who are in the 9 northernmost counties in Michigan who are unable to currently read regular print. So she has that space and Robin is in her back corner, basically. The door that we use to access it is a staff door from the staff hallway. But we are going to have, so you may or may not have noticed, and I didn't necessarily point this out, we do have our logo now as well. So the wonderful Heather Brady, who's the marketing manager here for the library, created this local history collection logo for us that we're now able to use. So we'll be putting that on our door, which we're pretty excited about to have, you know, this logo that identifies this as a thing here at the library. So I'm really excited about that too. So we are here on the first floor, but it is accessible through the staff only area. Thanks for the question. Anything else? Yes. Mhm. Yes, we do. Yep. And that will be covered in part of the training for the tagging photos. Absolutely.
How many calls do we get
For how many calls do we get?
about the online photograph?
How many calls do we get about the online photos? We get probably at least one question every other day. And sometimes it's more than that. It depends on the days. You'll notice waves of things. People get interested in doing things when they have some free time. And so sometimes, you know, at the beginning of the summer, we'll get a lot more of those kinds of calls and things for sure. Yep. All right. So we've got 3 people. I'm going to start in the back. Yes, you. Thank you. So so the question is about cross-referencing, and is there a way that we are setting things up right now to be able to easily cross-reference a name from one place to another? I mean, that's really where the keyword searching is coming in. And that's where we've got, when we have records that refer to other people or other records, by mentioning them and making sure that that's typed out somewhere in the record, that is what's going to make that findable.
Tagging.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's going to be some training that's really talking like in depth about the tagging and best practices for tagging. And that's something that we'll do when we talk about the photo. Yeah. When we talk about the photo training for that. But thank you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Spreadsheet.
Right. That's why it's a spreadsheet. Yeah. So that, yeah, because you can do find and replace in a spreadsheet and you can, yeah, or not replace, but find to be able to then quickly go through and hunt for the thing. Yeah, absolutely. And then find the next thing and the next time it shows up for sure. All right. So in the middle, Marty, right? Thank you. Sometimes. Yep, excellent question. So the question was, is the photo tagging new things or fixing the things that are already there? Right now, it's fixing the things that are already there because we haven't reached the point yet where we're streamlined enough in our staff processes. And also, I think we're probably going to be needing to get some assistance from like interns and things to be able to do the scanning part to get the stuff that is new online to then get to the tagging part. So what I'm hoping is that in the next couple of years, we'll be able to apply for some of those grants and get some of that assistantship that they're offering from places like MSU and have some of that help come in. And so what I'm really hoping is that we're going to get some quality interns like we always do. We've had some of the best interns the last couple of years, and that they're going to be able to help us with some of this. So for example, Robin earlier talked about the Friendly Garden Club. And so the Friendly Garden Club finding aid that's online was started by Amy Barrett, but she wasn't able to finish it before she left. It was finished by one of our interns a couple of years ago, and she is now the archivist over at NMC's library. So like, you know, we've got some people who are doing good things and then they move on to other good things in the community, which is great. I mean, no, that's not it. We're not ready and set up with a scanning station in a place that's accessible yet. So that's going to be our next step. And so that's something that like, I want to get this set up and rolling and got the process going. And then my next step is going to be, okay, so now how can we do the next things, which is adding the new things too. So, because you keep adding new things, but you don't fix the old things. Nobody ever goes back to fix the old things. I have seen I've seen that so many times. I'm new here, but I'm not new in libraries. I've been in libraries since the early 90s. And there was some stuff that people were like, oh, in the 70s, they were like, oh, we'll just do this. It'll be fine. We'll come back and fix it later. No. Yeah.
I just want to add something on that real
Absolutely.
quick. And I know people are really concerned about how quickly we're going to get items that come in processed. It was literally, it's been literally a year plus just to stabilize this collection. So we're thrilled that we did it in such a short period of time. I have colleagues in other institutions, and when they found out what we were able to do with this, with the limited amount of staff and the limited amount of time we had to get it secured, they were pretty impressed. So so one of the things we're doing is being very, very careful not to rush, because this is what we have physically at the moment. And so it's just an important part of it. So we're very aware that everyone's excited about it. But it has literally taken a tremendous amount of time and patience to get things to where they are right now. So we appreciate everyone's patience, I guess is my point. So
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, so yes, so a gentleman in the front here. No, we're going to do that here in the library. Yeah. The only things that are going to be done from home are the things that are done completely online. So that's part of the thing with doing the inventory, is making sure that we know what's there. And by keeping things in the library, then we know that what's in there stays in there, if that makes sense. And it's not that we don't trust anyone. We trust everyone. We're the library. We come in and you tell us who you are, and we let you take hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of stuff out every time you come in, right? We are very trusting. That's not it at all. It's just, we've seen things. Even as trusting as we are, we've seen things, we know things. I came from Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. And if you don't know about what happened there, you can Google archivist, Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, and I'll leave it at that. But we want to do everything that we can possibly do to make sure that what we have is available for everyone all the time in the future, and not just to one person who decides that it's important for them and they really like it, which is unfortunately something that happens even with the regular library stuff, which isn't as old and as cool as all of the stuff that we have in the local history collection, right? So, yes. Yeah, that's, yeah. Yep. That's a good point. So we have, and when Robin says that she's just gotten to this point, you are just on the cusp of where we are, where everything that is in, so there was a whole process to this because it was on those shelves, and The first set of shelves was completely accessioned and done by Amy, and everything was beautiful and gorgeous and findable. And all of the other things, we pretty much had a general idea that on this shelf, here's where the photo albums are, and on this shelf is here where these things are. But they weren't in boxes that were good for them necessarily. They were in what was available at the time. And so then they all had to be put into something that was much better for them because they had to be moved off of all of those shelves. And then we put them temporarily on shelves in here.
Right
And then
here where we're
right,
standing.
literally right here. And then they put the shelves in, and that took, a few weeks for the compact shelving to go in. And then everything had to be moved back over carefully and safely.
I did that myself.
And
One person did.
Robin is such a one
saying.
person show, which is amazing because of the skills that she's got to be able to do all of these things. And then when they got back in, they were put back. Basically, they landed where they had been picked up. And so everything was there. It was on shelves. It was safe. It was stable. It was good. It was in better boxes. But then it was still just where it had been landed after the donation happened or after the move had happened and the things had been put there. So some things were put on shelves and were never moved again after that when they came over in 2016. So Robin's been spending a lot of time in these last couple of months, at least organizing things so according to her notes and what she's found and the cursory glance at all of the things, here's all the stuff that we do have that's for the state hospital. Here's all the stuff that we do have that has TCAPs. Here's all of the family things. Here's all the women's project things. Here's all the friendly garden club stuff. So that at least now we do have the shelves that are sort of sectioned and organized so that when I say to Robin, I am looking for something about this, she knows where she's going because all of those things have been at least accumulated together. So yes. Now, is that available on a list for everyone to search? Not yet, because that's going to be part of that next step, is that now that we know and all of the things are together, she does have a list of what those things are, then we can go ahead and we can transfer that. So that we can say, these are collections we have not fully accessioned. So we don't know the exact contents of the boxes and things, but we know that it's there. Okay. Anything else? Pause. Supposed to pause for 45 seconds and
Any
wait.
questions? A good question.
Thank you again for coming today. Thank you for being part of this. We are super excited. And so whatever you're interested in, oh, yay. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. So for those of you who are online and can't sign up here in person and you're still here and hanging on, and I appreciate that, we want you to go ahead and email the library for what you're interested in doing. And you can email me directly. And so that's, my first name is Melissa. So my email address starts with an M for Melissa. And then my last name is McKenna. And so it's my entire last name. So my email is mmckenna@tattle.org. And Tattle stands for Traverse Area District Library, TADL.org. So you can email me directly. If you didn't catch all of that, there's an email address for the library that you'll find online. You can email that. That goes to my staff. My staff know what's going on and they will forward it to me. Okay. So if you're online seeing this and you'd like to volunteer, please email. If you're here in person, please go ahead and sign up. And thank you again. And oh, the sun has come out and it's just a lovely, lovely, gorgeous winter day. All right. Thank you, everyone.